I did finally get a Mike Tyson's Punch-Out deck together. I've been threatening to do this in Search forever. It's one of my favorite games, so I thought I'd do that. Because when we're talking about schema and semantic web, you need to inspire clients. You need to inspire the people you're working with in-house, and what better way to do it than Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, right? And they would never tolerate this in a boardroom or anything like that. So I'm Matthew Brown, as Aaron said. I'm head of special projects at Moz. I'm at Matthew J. Brown on Twitter. I still have AudienceWise as a consulting company, so I still do consulting with kind of enterprise and big site clients, kind of keep the knives sharp. So a lot of what I have put in this presentation is about how I sell semantic web and schema.org to enterprise level sites. And I have some ridiculous slides in here too. Anyway, to start out, the good news is the rich get richer. So you want to inspire your clients or inspire the people in-house to say, hey, you're the king. You're the Mike Tyson of this scenario, right? Like if you are optimizing your site for semantic web and optimizing for schema, you're the one that's going to get more real estate. You won't be surprised that I used to work for Marshall, so a lot of the themes that he touched on in terms of SERP property and mobile, and a lot of the things that go on with enterprise are in my deck as well. So when you look at a snippet like this, I did give you an Eagles slide, I'm sorry, I actually did. If you search for Philadelphia Eagles tickets, look at StubHub. They've got 3 event results and breadcrumbs, and then the Philadelphia Eagles website has a video thumbnail. That's brilliant, that's genius. If you want to get this beachfront property in search real estate and you're an enterprise site, it's there for you to take because you have the domain authority, you have the links, you have the status within Google to do this. So by the time you get to below the fold on this, by the time you get down here to StubHub or you get to NFL.com or you get to Ticketmaster, I mean, those clicks are gone. Everything's get taken up above the fold by the heavyweights, right? So that's kind of showing these results is how you can get people inside your company or your clients to buy off on this because you can take advantage of it and you can get the beachfront property. Google and Bing and Yahoo did a study with the common crawl data from the top 1,000,000 Alexa sites. They took the top 1,000,000 sites, they crawled them, and they found that the top 100 sites, almost 75% of them had some sort of markup, had schema, had microformats, had open graph. And then by the time you get down to the bottom, like you get down to the 1 million sites, it's down to 20%. So literally the top 100 sites are taking advantage of this. And then by the time you get down to 100K, 30% of sites are. So if you ever wonder why Google's biasing towards big brands in the search results and why they're doing this, it's right there. They can get structured data and schema and all of this awesome information from the top 100 sites, and they can't necessarily get it from the top 1,000,000 sites. So you see big brands and you see big sites dominating search results because obviously Google wants this structured data markup and they can get it when they're getting it from the top sites. So adoption is really rising in schema and it's really top heavy. Google had somebody come out today and say that they found schema markup on 15% of sites as of last month. That's huge. For them, that's a gigantic win. If they can get even close to 25% of the web up and running on structured data markup, they're going to be able to serve search results across just about every category that they care about. So it pays to get up and running with microformats. It pays to get up and running with schema. So here's the big 4. Schema.org markup, Google Plus authorship markup, or basically rel author, or tying your author profile to your G Plus profile, Twitter cards, and then Open Graph. Open Graph is its own standard, but it's really Facebook. The reason that everybody adopts Open Graph markup is to get onto Facebook and the social networks. Mike King wrote something on the iAcquire blog earlier this year that covers all of this. Cyrus Shepard at Moz wrote something this week about social markup and templates to use for that. You can find all of these on those sites and how to use markup and how to implement them. And a lot of people have covered that. So I won't belabor it here, but I'll just go over just a couple examples of why you want to use this and some things I've learned kind of stumbling my way through this in a couple years. So Open Graph. Right here, this is how Facebook dictates what you're sharing, the images, the description, and the title. At Moz, we've found when we get Open Graph markup right, and we get a good thumbnail and a good description and a good title, traffic goes way, way, way up. So that's important, right? Like we want engagement, we want shares, we want likes. When we don't mark it up with Open Graph, it goes down. When we mark it up, it goes right. So you probably know something about that. You've probably messed with Facebook on it. But have you messed with Facebook Open Graph action types? Because clients we've worked with that have either like Runkeeper, like I ran 2 miles on Runkeeper, or 8 miles on Runkeeper, or you do something on Nike Plus, or you read a book, or you watch a video. Facebook favors that in news feeds. So if you can get those Open Graph action types up and running, you can actually get in more news feeds with that sort of visibility rather than just likes and follows and share tags. So with clients, I look at this page. I'm like, do we do any of this? Do we have an app that does this? Do you have an Android or iOS app that has these actions? Can you take advantage of it? Because when you do it right in Facebook, you get a lot of traffic. So that's an Open Graph tip. Twitter cards is the same thing. It's just like Open Graph, but it's for Twitter. I shared something on Twitter earlier this week. AJ Cohn has Twitter cards enabled, and so I get a thumbnail, I get his custom description of the site. Just like Open Graph for Facebook, when we do this, we see Twitter engagement go up as well. So it's different than Open Graph, but it's also valuable. If you're going to do it for Facebook, you might as well do it for Twitter. And now we keep a lookout for other channels that are using semantic markup, like Pinterest has rich pins. And it's a little bit different. I love it when it's challenging. When I see something like Pinterest, when they do something like this, and it's not easy, they're not just incorporating schema, and they're not just incorporating Open Graph, that's better, because I know that I can create a defensible advantage on the channel before everybody else's development team gets it up and running. So Pinterest uses like a hybrid of Open Graph, a little bit of schema. You have to have the properties right. It's not quite intuitive, and that's great, because I know that if I can get my clients up and running with it or get Moz up and running with it, then nobody's going to take advantage of it by the time we've already had the channel up and running for 30 or 60 days. So always keep a lookout for new big social networks and channels that are offering semantic markup options, because it'll make a big difference. Okay, so schema in 5 steps. I used to put like 50 slide decks up on how to implement schema and why we should do it for our clients. I'm just going to give you the 5 steps because it's pretty easy. First of all, read the frickin' manual, because I did tests on this and I blew it. We'd test 100 pages on a site. We'd say, okay, we're going to mark up Open Graph and schema on 100 pages on a 50 million page site. And what happened? It wasn't picked up, because Google's like, hey, you got to mark up most of the site. Or if it's a microsite that doesn't have a lot of pages, that's not going to work either. You actually have to mark up the majority of your site to get this to work. So if you run a test with a client that's like, oh, we have 100 pages on the site, let's mark up schema, and you don't get snippets, it's because of this. So not all of this is common sense. You really want to read carefully what the guidelines are, because you'll miss stuff like this, like I did. 2, I like to prioritize on this. So I sit down with clients, or I sit down on Moz, and I talk about, okay, here's the snippet types you can get in Google, and here's how competitive they are. And we prioritize, well, what do we have on the site? What are the assets we can match to this? And then I can chime in with information like, hey, recipes is crazy competitive. Like if we're going to launch a recipe site, we can forget about snippets in many cases, because they're dominated by sites with huge site authority that go in on this. So this is a good way to run down with your clients, or whether or not you're in-house, on what the big opportunities are on this. 3, keep track of changes, and I run a version checker on this page on Google, which is their Webmaster Tools help page, and they'll add non-intuitive stuff to this page all the time. Like if you're using a specific schema property, they're like, don't use an item ID type like this, you got to use it like that. Here's some other guidelines that they give you that aren't necessarily like, oh, well, obviously I knew that. They'll make changes to this pages that we've fixed client work, where we've gone, oh yeah, we looked at that on the Webmaster Tools page. We shouldn't be running it like this. We should be changing it like that. So this is another one of those Google pages that they don't tell you when they change, but when they do make a change, it's meaningful. So Good Relations is an e-commerce web vocabulary, and they do studies on how long it takes you from when you put a rich snippets type of schema.org up, how long it takes your site to appear in rich snippets. And they say 20 days. In the last 6 months, for the implementations we've done, that's way too long. If you're an enterprise site, if you've got Moz domain authority in the 70s or above, or if you want to go back to toolbar PageRank, whether you were 6 or above, we're seeing snippets appear in like 48 to 72 hours. So like really quickly after Google indexes the site a lot. After about 7 days, I would revalidate, remove, maybe run a no cache tag on your site, do something, because it's probably not going to be appearing anytime soon if it doesn't appear in the first 7 days. If you're a big site, you have a lot of domain authority, so you kind of want to pay attention to that too. Last but not least, the rich snippets Hail Mary. I should have put a Patriot slide in here. I missed that opportunity. So for rich snippets, this is like the Google consideration form, like the reconsideration form. Put your name, put your site in here. Rich snippets aren't appearing. I've never had them get back to me on this, but I have had client work fixed with this form, where it's like it goes into the abyss, you don't get a response, and all of a sudden, boom, snippets are appearing again. So another way that you can troubleshoot it is, hey, nothing's working. Use the rich snippets consideration form, and bam, something appears. So I don't know. That's how Google works. They're the void. Okay. So that's schema in 5 steps. Even, if you know Casey Henry at Moz, even Casey can implement this stuff. It's not hard for a development team to do this. But what's really going to move the needle going forward, and this is kind of what Marshall touched on with enterprise training and enterprise clients, it's your training. Like when we trained clients on, over the last 10 years, links matter, keywords matter, on-page markup matters. All of this is something that everybody needs to know to move the ship. And so if you have 1,000 people at a company doing a little bit of SEO, that's better than one person trying to do SEO for an entire company. So we've run training programs over the last several years which emphasize what we all know about SEO, all the blocking and tackling with keywords and links. Now it's time, now that Google's moved into this world of structured data and semantic markup, now it's time to update that. We got to get clients thinking more about less about links, less about keywords, even though they're still important. We all know they still work right now, and more about structured data in the semantic web. So I'm trying to update them with trainings and tools. Aaron Bradley, who's SEO skeptic, who I shamelessly ripped this slide off from, he probably has the best definition of semantic SEO that I've seen, which is it's optimizing for relationships. It's less about keywords and matching documents to keywords and links that point to that web document, and more about something like this. Somebody types, Blender reviews, or I'm looking for a new Blender, or best blenders. And instead of Google trying to match the document that has the biggest number of links to it, they're trying to optimize the relationship. Who knows something about blenders? Who has a Twitter account that this person follows that bought a blender or reviewed a blender on Amazon that has structured data that identifies who that person is and what they reviewed and then what blender brand was it? That's the kind of user intent Google's trying to match for now. So instead of just matching up a keyword in a document, they're trying to optimize those entities and relationships. So that's a lot. I'm trying to distill this down for clients who are like, whoa, Hummingbird. Like structured data, like schema, like you're up here, like we need you to boil this down. So this is kind of what I'm looking at is can I show them what entities are, how they're related, and then tie it into Google's search results. So I give them a tool like ConceptNet. If you've ever put clients on Google keyword tools or Ubersuggest or Suvel or something like that, try ConceptNet out. So for something like coffee, if they type in this entity or this word, they get like coffee has properties serve hot, coffee is a stimulant, coffee is a drug. And these are like really simplistic relationships, but that's exactly the kind of relationship that Google is trying to look at. If you type in what does coffee do to your body, they don't just want to match you to a document anymore. They want to figure out who's authoritative on coffee. Does WebMD have a page about how coffee is a stimulant? Are these people following WebMD's Twitter account or on Google+? And these are the kind of results that we're seeing in Hummingbird now, which is what does coffee do to you? Instead of just being like the Wikipedia page, you're starting to see these results creep into the SERPs more and more. So kind of a good starter to get clients and enterprise onto this is ConceptNet. And then Google Trends has moved from these are just keyword matches, this is just search volume, to these are the top entities that we're seeing in the search results. Business people, colleges and universities, energy companies, animals, athletes. You can look down the trends, and I didn't know that giraffe was the most searched on entity last month, but it was, and see what they're doing here. They're matching the entities with the greatest amount of interest in the knowledge graph. So it's interesting to see what they're doing in that way. And this is another way you can get clients up and running on that is just check out the entity graph. Check out what's happening on trends and see what they're doing. Freebase is tougher. This is where Google builds their knowledge graph results from, but it's harder to plug in something on Freebase like Zoo and be like, okay, knock yourselves out. You get San Diego Zoo, London Zoo, the Desert Museum, Monterey Bay. These are all things where it's like you can turn them loose on Freebase, they're just going to get lost. Unless you have a development team that can query the Freebase API and give you useful information to map to your topics, this is kind of a black hole. But Ethan here at Sierra actually said something to me at MozCon in July, which was, have you checked out the Alchemy API? Now this is interesting because you can use the API to do a lot of that development work for your content modeling, or you can just turn people loose on this text tool and say, drop in a page. It'll extract entities for you. It'll extract, like, so the San Diego Zoo is about not just the San Diego Zoo, but the San Diego Safari Park and the Safari Park Flickr account and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. You can extract all of these entities and give people an idea of like, here's what your page is about. Here's the who, what, where, why, and how of what your page is about and what you need to be optimizing for, because that's what Google is looking at. It's not just the keywords, but the entities this page is about. So it's cool that they have this drop-in tool for a web form. And Fresh Web Explorer alerts that we launched as part of the Moz analytics package about a month ago. I like to plug in entities like Rand Fishkin or other people, places, or things into Fresh Web Alerts and then see what entities are mentioned alongside Rand. Is he mentioned alongside SEO or MozCon, or is he mentioned alongside one of the articles he wrote? I want to see what's trending in terms of like my company name or brand names and try to match him up to what the most popular entities are that match him, so that we can build content around it, or we can make sure our content reflects that, or we can see what Google's looking for. So it's good to get people up and running on these sorts of alert services, because then they can see how entities are trending across Google. Another way to do that is a tool called Trends Map, which does it on a local level. So if I have a client that's working on like New York restaurants, they probably are more interested in restaurant-based searches and entities than they are just across the globe. So you put them on something like Trends Map, and they can actually dial in what's being searched for and what entities are trending in their local area, whether it's a city or a county or a state. So that's another way to get them looking at that. And last but not least, there's Bottlenose, which maps specific topics and entities to the most authoritative followers around those topics. So for Veterans Day, you can see veterans, Happy Veterans Day, Department of Veterans Affairs, and all of these connected to people that are the most authoritative Twitter users that are around those topics. So this is a little bit like follower wonk, but you can look at it in graph form. So again, another tool you can put in front of people that are maybe not so familiar with SEO or semantic SEO or structured data, and it makes a difference. So what I'm trying to do is get people to think about this and use tools that are getting them up and running on it. Okay. So if everybody here probably reads Bill Slawski, right? Bill Slawski's Google patents, they're awesome. He wrote something about Hummingbird, about how Hummingbird and AuthorRank are slightly tied together or very strongly tied together. And Hummingbird and AuthorRank doesn't necessarily mean Google authorship, but it means Hummingbird is serving more results that reflect how authoritative somebody is on a topic and whether or not you're connected to them. And so this is getting really interesting. This is one of the things where when Google said Hummingbird changed 90% of search queries, SEOs were like, really? And that's weird, right? That kind of means we might be looking in the wrong place. If we're so focused on keywords and links that we're not seeing when Google changes 90% of SERPs, like, what the hell does that mean? Like, that means we might actually not be on top of the industry. And so we had a search, a friend of mine, Michael Cottam, he's like, I'm ranking #1 for independent SEO consultant. Are you seeing this? And I looked at it, and I was logged out. I ran it through a proxy. I ran it through another country. And he's not even targeting that phrase. And he pops for #1 for me. And then some other people that ran it, he's like #2 or 3. He doesn't have backlink profiles that reflect this anchor text. It's not exact or partial match anchor text. He doesn't have a bunch of links to his site. He's not even targeting the phrase on the page or in title tags or anything else. Like, there's none of the SEO explanations that we're all used to having for this sort of result over the last 10 years. None of them make sense for this. And you got to look back and you got to think, what changed? Why is Google giving us these kind of results for our SEO when we know that it's got to be links, it's got to be anchor text, it's got to be the authority of the site? It's actually probably. I can't believe they made Glass Joe a ginger in the remake of Punch-Out. So mean to my people. So there's bad news. And so this is not how I lead with clients or I lead at Moz, but there's some bad news here. So as Marshall said, you're not Mike Tyson. You're actually Little Mac. Mike Tyson's Google in this scenario. When it comes to structured data and semantic web, Google is eating more and more of the beachfront properties search results that we're seeing every day. So this is bad news for what we're working on. So we'll see stuff like this. ESPN does a deal with Google that says, we're going to give you microdata for Major League Baseball scores. It'll be awesome. We'll show scores under your snippet. You click the link, you get the scores. That's great. You search for NBA scores or MLB scores now, this is all Google. They're getting it from NBA.com. They're getting it from Major League Baseball. You don't even need to click through, but if you do click through, you get to NBA.com. On baseball scores, you click through, you get to MLB.com. So basically, they ate the data, and you probably aren't going to get clicks from that anymore. And then we see crazy stuff like the March Madness bracket. I don't know if you saw this last year, but the March Madness bracket was above the fold and all the way below the fold. How many people wait for March Madness? How many sites are like, we get people in the door, they print out their bracket, we advertise, we get them to sign up for our league, and Google probably wiped out what? 7, 8, or 9 figures worth of advertising by putting something like that when you search for NCAA bracket. If they have a printable bracket next year, which I predict they will, people are going to go nuts. You'll be able to print your bracket right from the Google SERPs. It's crazy. And if you know a travel SEO, you know an unhappy travel SEO, right? Because everything, if you search for hotels, you search for flights, you search for all this, Google leads you to flights, hotels, and all of this web search. The back pocket card that they have, if anybody complains about this, is, hey, our users like it. Users love this stuff. And so you're going to see more and more of it because as long as people are interacting with this, Google has a defensible excuse for whenever the government polices them or wherever they get critical feedback, which is this is the best thing for our users. And you'll find, like, if you ask your parents or you ask people that aren't in the SEO world, they're like, yeah, I use Google Flight Search. It's awesome. I don't go to anywhere else. You're like, oh, you're killing me. As an SEO, you're killing me on this. And Marshall mentioned Dr. Pete. He is one of the smarter people at Moz. He's definitely smarter than me. He runs a Moz account, the Google Plus account on Moz, which periodically shows you different types of search results that he's seeing in Mozcast. And like literally, this is one of my early warning systems for clients because when I see a search result that Google has launched that looks like something that's going to displace us in the search, in the listings, I'm like, uh-oh. I need to let my clients know that this is coming. Like this is a Google search result type that's coming and it's going to be something that's going to affect us. So I follow him on the Moz G Plus account because he posts this kind of stuff very frequently. Okay, so distilling this into a strategy, like this is all great, talking about semantic web, schema, Google's evil, all of that. This is kind of a distillation of what I tell my clients and what I tell people on Moz that we're going to do. Here's the strategy. First of all, if you are at the blackjack table with Google and you're an enterprise site, you already have an advantage. You're sitting on 11. Like you already have the domain authority, the links, Google wants your content, you're in that top 1,000 sites. Like you really want to double down on semantic markup. This is a key strategy. I don't veer towards don't mark your data up, Google will just eat it. I veer towards take advantage of it now. So you may not look at a site like Kissmetrics as an enterprise site, but they're getting an in-depth article result for the search term SEO. And the reason they're getting it isn't because of links. It isn't because of anchor text. It's because they have authorship tied to Kissmetrics. And Christy Hines, who wrote this article, has her author profile, and she has authority across a bunch of different sites and not just Kissmetrics. So the first time I looked at this, I was like, damn, like I want that result. I want the Moz Beginner's Guide to have that result. And I usually don't see sites like Kissmetrics in in-depth articles. I see Forbes, I see CNN, I see NY Times. Like, what's this about? So I look at the links. 74 links from 20 linking root domains versus the Moz Beginner's Guide, which is 15,000 links from 2,000 linking root domains. I mean, we have more Google Plus ones by a factor of 10. We have almost as many tweets. We have more Facebook likes. Just by any SEO metric that we pay attention to, why is Kissmetrics there and we're not? And it's got to be author rank. It's got to be authorship. It's got to be the fact that it's all tied together in the semantic markup of that article, and Google is very heavily favoring that because it's not links. Otherwise, we would be there. So we go all in on markup, we tie author rank together on it. CNET is doing an awesome job on this. CNET, if you search for any tech gear search, and the CBS Interactive guys have this dialed in. You search for wireless routers, you search for Blu-ray players, you search for DVD players, anything. They've got articles on here that are tied in to their authors with authorship, and they'll pop on almost all of these searches. I would emulate them for authorship, even if you're in the e-com space or a tech space, because Google is still putting those articles in the search results that have that markup and have that authorship. So we did a G Plus test, my friend Tim and I, who works at Moz. I shared a Guardian.com NSA article, and I'm like, okay, I shared it, now go ahead and search for it. So before, I wasn't there. 44 seconds later, I was number 3 for him across the country when he searched for NSA. And you can see it says 44 seconds ago, and it's like, okay. So we did it again, and we did it with another person who was also across the country in a different part of the world, and it popped in 5 seconds, where I was number 3 for him 5 seconds after I shared this on Google+. Think about the engineering behind that. Like, that's crazy. Google knew to re-roll that search engine result less than 10 seconds after I shared it. Like, that's crazy engineering and how they're dialing in SERPs now. So this all becomes more important when you tie in authorship and you tie in authority. Rand's a goofball, and so is Geraldine, his wife. But these are awesome Whiteboard Friday videos about how to use Google Plus to appear in the top results. That's essentially him breaking down what I just did. So if you have something that's shared by Rand, and he has 100,000 people in his circles, that those search results are now reflecting, I mean, that's a lot of traffic, right? If you can get that sort of influence circle and you can appear in that many people's SERPs, that's a lot. That's big. Again, adjust enterprise training programs, get people off keyword tools and onto entity-based search tools like Google Trends, like Search Map, like things like that. Like, that's going to be a big deal to get people thinking along the lines of entities and relationships and who you are and what you're writing about, rather than just you need to write things that get links, because it's going to move more and more towards that. The key word that Marshall mentioned that'll do this is mobile. Mobile traffic, if you say mobile all of a sudden they're like Hummingbird schema, I don't care about any of this. You get a CEO or a VP in the room and you say mobile, they're paying attention, right? That word is very, very sexy to them. And you can show graphs like this trend line, which basically tells them, hey, people aren't gonna bang out keyword searches on tablets and phones in 5 years. They're gonna have conversational search, they're gonna have Siri, they're gonna have all of these things where you get semantic results, and Google and Yahoo and Bing and Facebook wanna answer that as quick as possible because they know if you're the search engine that requires 8 different keyword searches to get to something, you're gonna lose. So if you emphasize mobile, that gets people paying attention to all of the other stuff you need to teach them because they know that is the future. It's been ingrained in everybody's head. And then show examples of desktop and mobile results. I like to say that mobile results are driving desktop results now. They launched a mobile card for weather that now the desktop search looks like that. So mobile results and mobile search are going to start driving what desktop search looks like. And when you show examples of that, that's going to be really powerful to convince people in-house and at your clients that this is important. Again, while everybody went to SMX Advanced, I went to the Semtech Biz Conference, and while everybody was looking at Matt Cutts and like, what's Penguin 2.9 and what's all this crap, I was actually talking to the people that are building the future at Google and Bing and Facebook and Yahoo. So these 4 gentlemen are the ones that are like, oh, this is how we're doing knowledge graph. This is how we're doing schema. This is what we want to do with it. This is our Yahoo knowledge base and how we're going to show results on the Yahoo properties. And this is how you should use the Freebase API to do your applications and your web development. If you meet these people, they're very transparent and will tell you exactly what Google's doing, exactly what Facebook wants to do. That's way more valuable than guessing about a Google penalty or what you talk about at SMX, because these people are building the future, and that's really where you want to go. And getting information is really easy right now because SEOs haven't beaten them to death yet. So thanks for coming out. I have one bonus slide for you, which is this is a Kotaku link, and you can actually watch Mike Tyson play Punch-Out. He said he couldn't even beat Glass effing Joe, which is kind of awesome. But if you watch this, this is some through the looking glass shit. But it's awesome, and you should definitely click that link. Thank you.